All right, so in Isaiah 44, Isaiah has named Cyrus. Cyrus is the mysterious representative of God's messianic purposes from the east. That was first mentioned in Isaiah 41. And here he actually gives him a name. He says, I'm going to call you by name Cyrus. Now remember, Isaiah is saying this 100 years before Cyrus would even be born, and well before Babylon would have invaded and destroyed the temple. So this is very, very predictive, which is part of the point of the whole section, where Isaiah is saying, who is a God like this who can call generations ahead of time and predict things in future generations? There's no God like this. And in fact, Babylon has a special God who's supposed to be their predictor, God, who Isaiah is going to confront in chapter 46. Anyway, he's saying there's no God like this who can predict things this accurately, this far in advance, and that's part of the point. So those who would say that, well, this couldn't have been written by Isaiah, this had to be written later by somebody who knew the details, just trying to somehow rationalize and remove the predictive element of this, where actually the predictive element is the point of these chapters. They need to be written in advance. And that's why we can have greater confidence in Isaiah's authorship of these passages 100 years before Cyrus was born. So here's the message then to Cyrus in chapter 45. He says, thus says the Lord to his anointed. And that anointed is wild because there's no other Gentile figure that gets that messianic promise. I mean, it's like a messianic title of his anointed is something really profound. For the Lord to call Cyrus his anointed, again, he's a representative. He's kind of a figurative representation or foreshadowing of these messianic promises. But to give him that title is pretty wild, especially since Cyrus was not a believer. Like Cyrus was not a covenant loyalist by any measure. And so to say that is pretty remarkable. But I think what's really happening is Isaiah wants to really affirm that Cyrus is a representative of a greater deliverer at the end of the age, saying he is of that order, that he's going to function in a messianic type of role. So here's what he says. Of Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped. Now remember, all the times we just talked about how the Lord is going to take his Messiah even by the right hand. He's applying these promises from chapter 42 to Cyrus now. It says, whose right hand I have grasped to subdue nations before him, to loose the belt of kings, to open doors before him, and the gates, that gates may not be closed. I will go before you. I will level the exalted places. I will break in pieces the doors of bronze and cut through the bars of iron, and I will give you the treasures of darkness and the hoards in secret places. Now it's important to know a couple of things about Cyrus. Cyrus was a conqueror and a cunning negotiator whose success gave way, though, to arrogance. He sounds pretty full of himself when you read some proclamations by Cyrus. Yet Isaiah clarifies that it was the Lord who brought Cyrus to prominence, saying, I am the one who's going to loosen the belts of kings. And Cyrus thinks he's the one who's the cunning negotiator who gets people into agreements and arrangements and builds alliances and all of that and does all this conquering. It's really the Lord who's gone ahead of him and prepared the way. And Isaiah points out the significance of calling Cyrus by name ahead of time. He says, I call you by name. I name you. It's the Lord 100 years earlier. I am the Lord. There is no other besides me. I am the one who equips you, though you don't know me. Now, twice Isaiah says Cyrus doesn't know me. Isaiah repeatedly acknowledges that Cyrus was unfamiliar with the God of Israel. He's not a covenant loyalist. So while Cyrus did invoke the name of the God of Israel to Ezra in Ezra chapter 1, you can see that here. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord out of the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of the king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation. And so the proclamation says, the Lord, the God of heaven, who has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, has charged me to build the house at Jerusalem. Now that's pretty remarkable. Now, although he makes that declaration to Ezra, Cyrus also invoked the Babylonian god Marduk to his Babylonian subjects, according to a historical artifact known as the Cyrus Cylinder. In truth, Cyrus was a relational pragmatist, which aided his negotiating power. But if God used a Gentile king who did not fully comprehend the biblical narrative, well, how much more would God empower leaders who do, his witnesses who want to partner, who do perceive what God's doing in the biblical narrative and want to partner with it in the present day. Now, why? God reveals the reason why he raises up Cyrus for the sake of my servant Jacob and Israel, my chosen ones. I am the Lord, there is no other. Beside me, there's no God, that all the people may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there's none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. Saying, I am the orchestrator of all of it. I'm the orchestrator of Babylon. I'm the orchestrator of Persia. He's even the orchestrator of the Antichrist, which is a very difficult message. But he's saying, I'm the one who does all of this. I'm the ultimate orchestrator, and I am the one who can accomplish my purposes. And then Isaiah provides this sort of example blessing of the Messianic age, where he proclaims, shower, O heavens, from above, and let the clouds rain down righteousness. Let the earth open up. It's this proclamation of both blessing, but it's covenant fulfillment that's being proclaimed for the Messianic age that can be proclaimed now as a prophetic declaration, but is literally fulfilled in the Messianic age. It's so cool. Let the earth open up and salvation and righteousness bear fruit. Let the earth cause them both to sprout up. Sprout up what? Salvation and righteousness. It's so cool. I, the Lord, have done it. I have created it. And then looking at Israel saying, so woe to him who strives with him who formed him, a pot among earthen vessels. Does the clay say to him who formed it, what are you making? Basically, those who are resisting God's authority over history, especially among his people, he is appealing to them, recognize what I'm doing and cooperate with it. Why don't you talk to me about the things that are to come? Will you command me concerning my children and the work of my hands? I made the earth. I created man on it. It is my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I commanded all their host. I have stirred him up in righteousness. The him is Cyrus. I have stirred Cyrus up in righteousness, and I will make his ways level. And he will build my city and set my exiles free, not for a price or reward, says the Lord of hosts. He actually funds it himself. And then, interestingly, returning to the context of Israel's final deliverance, he kind of goes back to the promises of Isaiah 18 and 19, describing Egypt and Ethiopia coming to acknowledge God's glory and worship the God of Israel. The wealth of Egypt and the merchandise of Cush and the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over to you and be yours, and they will follow you, and they will come over in chains and bow down. They will plead with you, saying, surely God is in you, and there is no other God besides him. In verses 15 and onward, God really reminds Israel that they were recipients of special knowledge concerning the biblical narrative, saying God has hidden himself or parts of his understanding and insight from other nations, but not with Israel. Isaiah settles the argument here in Isaiah chapter 45, verse 17, to any who might suggest that God's covenant with Israel is broken or over or done with or irrelevant for the future. Isaiah makes clear that Israel will receive an everlasting salvation, even as the first nation to receive a comprehensive and permanent salvation, through whom then the rest of the world will experience a full covenant fulfillment and all God's promises revealed in the Messianic age. But here he says, but Israel is saved by the Lord with an everlasting salvation, a permanent, everlasting, comprehensive, no going back salvation. You will not be put to shame or confounded to all eternity. A permanent age of covenant fulfillment that will never again be challenged, says the Lord. Now I'm just going to scoot down here to the bottom where the Lord is again challenging the nations, challenging the wisdom of the rest of the nations who don't perceive what he's doing, but then he appeals. Here in verse 22, he says, turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth. This appeal goes out to the nations. All the ends of the earth, appeal to me, or turn to me and be saved. For I am God and there is no other. By myself I have sworn. From my mouth has gone out righteousness, a word that shall not return. To me every knee shall bow and every tongue will swear allegiance. Only in the Lord it shall be said of me are righteousness and strength. To him shall come and be ashamed all who were incensed against him. In the Lord all the offspring of Israel shall glory, or shall be justified and shall glory. What a beautiful appeal for the Great Commission, for the gospel going forth to the ends of the earth. What an appeal, this expression of the heart of God to look to the ends of the earth, unbelieving nations that don't have a history of covenants and all of that heritage that Israel has, but to say to them, all the ends of the earth, turn to me, be renewed, let your strength be renewed, which we looked at in Isaiah 41. We looked at in Isaiah 41 verse 1. He says, turn to me and let your strength be renewed. And here he says, turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth. For I am God, there is no other. And this gospel proclamation goes to the ends of the earth, and the earth receives it joyously in the Messianic age. It's an awesome promise and an awesome appeal that we're making even now. And that's really the crux of Isaiah's message from Isaiah 40 to 45, ending in this appeal. A lot of commentators consider this kind of a crescendo moment of this ongoing dialogue that's been had through these chapters, and it's well deserved. A very, very awesome appeal.